All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Let's get it. No foreplay today. A lot of stuff to get to. So in just a second, Luigi Mangione was charged with terrorism. Not just murder, terrorism. I'll explain why they're doing that. Then we'll get into Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was stabbed in the back by dinosaur Democrats for a leadership role. We have a fascinating and shocking new poll on people's reaction to the healthcare CEO killing. Just wait until you see what the young demographic thinks. This is wild, bro. Then we'll get into Trump's insane lawsuit against a pollster he doesn't like because that pollster had him losing Iowa to Kamala. He's not even trying to win the lawsuit. This is what I need you guys to understand. It's just the whole point is to have a chilling effect. But we'll get more on that later. Then we'll get to exposing the criminal healthcare cartel in this country. It's a mafia, and we have numbers to show you just how much they're gangsters. So we have all that and more. You guys know the drill. Please do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel. That helps out massively. You guys have no idea. It pushes it out there in the algorithm. And also a big thank you to everybody who supports this show on Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. Remember, this is real independent media, not fake independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser or a corporation or a billionaire or a foreign government. You guys fund this show from the ground up, and we have the default ads on YouTube. Very proud of that model that we built. And again, we couldn't do it without you. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So according to the Associated Press, Luigi Mangione has been charged with terrorism. So here's what they say. The man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO has been charged with murder as an act of terrorism, prosecutors said Tuesday as they worked to bring him to a New York court from a Pennsylvania jail. Luigi Mangione already was charged with murder in the December 4th killing of Brian Thompson, but the terror allegation is new. Under New York law, such a charge can be brought when an alleged crime is, quote, intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence the policies of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion, and affect the conduct of a unit of government by murder, assassination, or kidnapping. Now, let's be clear up front, right? The standard definition of terrorism that I go by and, most other people go by is doing violence for a political or religious reason. That would be like the standard general understanding of what terrorism is. And to be fair, when you look at this action, it does kind of fit in that definition, in the sense that this was a murder for a political reason. Now, you could say, well, it was more economic than political, which is fair, but at the same time, economics and politics are sort of intertwined very closely and clearly. So there is an argument that, hey, this fits under that category. Now, having said that, that is not the reason why they decided to charge him with terrorism. The reason why is to have a broader effect, a chilling effect on the dialogue around this, on the feelings around this. I saw somebody say, damn, are they about to make CEOs a protected class? I mean, maybe you guys saw that in New York, they're considering a hotline for CEOs whose feelings are hurt. I'm not kidding about that. All right, so here's what I said about this the other day. Charging Luigi with terrorism is part of a broader plan to infiltrate in circles where people expressed no sympathy for the CEO. Just like that woman getting arrested in Florida for telling Blue Cross they're next after she had her claim denied. Remember that, guys. A woman in Lakeland, Florida was talking to Blue Cross Blue Shield. She just got her claim denied, and she said, I always forget what the three words are, delay, deny, depose, defend, deny, depose, whatever it was. You guys are next. And clearly that was a woman who was pissed off that her claim was denied. That's her way of saying, hey, fuck you to these people. But you got a knock on the door from cops, and she was arrested. What? That is not a direct threat of violence by any stretch of the imagination. This is clearly protected First Amendment free speech, and she got arrested. Why did they arrest her? They arrested her, again, to have a chilling effect. They want to ban anti-corporate organizing under the guise of, you guys are doing terroristic threats. So this is them pulling out all the stops to get you to shut up and accept your corporate overlords and never question gangster capitalists who are profiting off of your misery and your death. So, to prove that case further, look at what Klippenstein just reported. Trump advisor, this is Seb Gorka, big head Seb Gorka, likens Luigi Mangione sympathizers to terrorists. And guess what? He is the incoming counterterrorism czar. So why would he say this? And what's he going to do about it? He's saying this again because they want to infiltrate any area, any movement, any group where people express no sympathy for the CEO. And they want to treat you as a domestic threat. This was from 2021, but it's totally relevant today. U.S. military training document says socialists represent terrorist ideology. Terrorist ideology. What they're trying to do is lay the groundwork to say, hey, I'm sorry, but we need to take away your privacy rights and spy on this group and that group, whether it be DSA or whatever anarchist group or whatever left-wing political party. They want to infiltrate. They want to spy on these groups. They want to break them down from within. They want to create a chilling effect so that you don't see what you saw, which is, 80 to 90% of the internet, regardless of political affiliation, in the aftermath of this shooting, basically in so many ways expressing zero sympathy for the CEO and kind of being like, yeah, I understand where this came from, right? That's the idea here. That's the goal here. It has nothing to do with, oh, we think it's terrorism, so we're going to charge it with terrorism, and that's the end of the conversation. No, it's to have a wider ranging impact on the body politic and make it so that everybody shuts up and accepts their corporate overlords. And most importantly, you don't organize in an effective and an intelligent way to try to get past our for-profit health insurance system and healthcare system and bring about Medicare for all and things of that nature. So that's the problem with this. And I want to finish this segment by playing for you Noam Chomsky. He said this for quite a while now, but his thoughts on the label terrorism, because it really puts into perspective for you how the game is rigged, right? The way that word is used, the game is rigged. So listen to what he has to say, and then we'll discuss.
First of all, when we use the term terror, we have to recognize that, like most terms of political discourse, has two meanings. There's a literal meaning, and there's the doctrinal meaning. Now, in the literal meaning, terror is what's described in U.S. Code of Laws. It's the threat or use of violence to intimidate, typically against civilians, to intimidate populations for political, ideological, and other ends. Well, nobody can use that definition, because if you use that definition, it follows instantly that the United States is a leading terror state, that Britain is another leading terror state, and so on. So the literal definition, the one that's in the U.S. Code of Laws, is unusable. Then we go to the doctrinal definition, the one that's used in the media and scholarship and so on. That's the same as the official definition, but with a qualification. It only applies to what they do to us, not what we do to them. Okay, that's the doctrinal meaning. I'll now use it in the doctrinal sense. That's totally dishonest, of course. As to what to do about the threat of terror in the doctrinal sense, meaning the terror by them against us, there are a lot of things to do. One thing is to not increase the threat. That's a simple step. Don't act in order to increase the threat. Now, the U.S. consistently, and Britain, act in order to increase the threat of terror. Not because they want terror, but because it's just not a high priority. So take the invasion of Iraq. As I mentioned, that was undertaken with the expectation, since amply confirmed, that it would increase the threat of terror. They expected it. It happened. Well, one of the ways not to increase the threat of terror is not to take steps like that that'll increase it. Another, and there's just about unanimity on this among specialists and intelligence agencies. Second step is to try to ask what its reasons are. What are the causes of it? And where the causes are grievances that are legitimate grievances, something should be done about those grievances, quite apart from the threat of terror.
Think about how everything he just said there applies to this situation, right? So let me ask you, when a for-profit health insurance company price gouges you on the front end and charges as much as possible, and then tries to deny you care on the back end, and oftentimes does. In the case of United Healthcare, it's like 32 or 34% of the time they deny the claim. When you have 68,000 people that die every year because they don't have basic health care. Is that violence? And the deeper question is that terrorism? Because if we're saying terrorism is violence for a political or religious reason, well, it's political and it's economic in the same way that what Luigi Mangione did was political and economic, right? But those 68,000 don't count. When a claim is denied and somebody dies, that doesn't count. When a claim is denied and somebody goes bankrupt, that doesn't count. That's not violence. That's not terrorism. So notice how the label is being used in an imbalanced way. Again, it all goes back to this idea of, well, if there's a system and there's a veneer of respectability and there's a hierarchy and the people at the top wear suits and ties and sit in boardrooms and have meetings, therefore, what they do is acceptable. Therefore, what they do is just part of society. It's baked into the cake of the way everything works, right? But that's the trick that's played on you. As if organized systemic violence can't be just as loathsome or quantitatively more than the reaction here. And as Noam Chomsky said, people could ask the question, well, what can we actually do to reduce the amount of terrorism, right? In the case of foreign policy, it's like, don't invade random countries that didn't attack you and totally break the region and lead to the rise of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and get blowback attacks. So that's an answer on the foreign policy front. On the domestic front, don't have a system where 68,000 people die every year because they can't get basic health care. Don't have a system where they price gouge you on the front end and then deny you care as much as possible on the back end in order to increase their profit for their shareholders. Like, these are the answers. But of course, no serious person is going to say, hey, it's kind of a version of very clear violence and terrorism to have an organized system, which is a meat grinder, which kills 68,000 people a year and bankrupts many more than that. Nobody's going to say that. Instead, they just look at the reaction to that and they go, well, obviously that guy's a terrorist because he shot somebody in the back. So, again, the reason why they're charging him has nothing to do with what actually happened. Because there is an argument that this is violence for a political reason, right? The reason why they're charging him with that is to have a broader chilling effect. They want to have a broader chilling effect in the same way. That's why they arrested that woman in Lakeland, Florida for talking shit to her health insurance company. And now we have somebody coming in, a counterterrorism czar under Trump, who's saying outright, the people who showed no sympathy for the CEO, they are terrorists. They're terrorists. And remember, on the list of terrorist groups in U.S. military training documents includes anarchists and socialists right alongside neo-Nazis. So this is the plan moving forward. It's a crackdown, it's spying, it's authoritarianism, it's trying to nip in the bud any sort of anti-corporate organizing, even if that organizing is peaceful. That's the idea here. They're going to say you're a terrorist sympathizer or terrorist adjacent. And it's like, look, I got bad news for you. If that's your stance, then what you're saying is 80 to 90% of the reaction online, all of those people are terrorist sympathizers. That's what you're saying. Bill Burr is a terrorist sympathizer. Like, all of the comment section on Ben Shapiro's videos with all of those conservatives, they're all terrorists or terrorist sympathizers or terrorist adjacent. That's the argument you're making. And so, obviously, that's preposterous at face value. But final point I'll make here is, I wonder if, like, it's a little bit of an overcharge, right? It's harder to prove terrorism than it would be to just prove murder, right? So I wonder if maybe they overreached in this respect, right? And if that'll backfire on them. I mean, I kind of doubt it, because it seems like they got him red-handed in every other way, right? So, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds, but understand the chilling effect that they're trying to put out there. Understand the chilling effect. It's only going to get worse, especially now that we have a far-right administration coming in and they have no problem being authoritarian. And you know the ideology of the people who are around Trump and who are going to head these various government agencies. It is, just prepare yourself. It's not going to be pretty. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.